The heartbeat of any firehouse across the city of New York is the kitchen table. It's where we break bread, break balls, and break everything in between. They say all the world's problems can be solved at a firehouse kitchen table. I don't know how true that is, but what I do know, it's what I miss the most. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the kitchen table. And yes, it's evening. It's a new one for me because normally I do these in the morning. And I've been saying good morning, everyone. And that's what I just wanted to say to you guys. But no, it's about 5 o'clock Friday night. So good evening, everyone. If you are a returning customer to the kitchen table, I want to say thank you so much for the support and the love that I've been feeling from everybody, that I've been getting from all my friends and family and everybody listening to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Not so much Amazon, but Spotify and Apple for sure. And then watching it on YouTube. I cannot express how happy I am that you guys are watching and liking it and keep listening. So thank you guys so much. And don't forget to share. Share it. Let the world know. Let's get this message out. If you are new to the kitchen table, let me introduce myself. My name is Kenny D. I am a career first responder. I have military experience, law enforcement, and fire department experience, around 29 or 30 years or so of experience. I am trying to get a message out of mental health awareness through my experiences as a first responder, through everything that I've dealt with depression, sadness, thoughts of suicide, anxiety, fear, the whole 9 yards. The first responder community has to deal with that stuff way more than normal people. But this podcast isn't just for first responders. It's not just for cops, firemen, paramedics, nurses, doctors. It's not just for them. Everyone has experienced some sort of trauma or sadness or depression in their life. I believe everyone has. Something that affected them so much that they can't stop thinking about, or they don't talk about, or they never seek help about, and just let themselves spiral. This podcast, this message is for everyone. No matter who you are, everyone and anyone is welcome at my kitchen table. So, thanks for showing up. Hopefully this isn't your first episode, but if it is, there's about 15 or 16 more that you got to watch to catch up. So let's get going. Normally, what I've been doing is trying to get like statistics and read up on articles and books and surveys and stuff like that, just so it doesn't sound like I'm making shit up off the top of my head, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm talking out of my ass. I don't want that to happen, because I can sound like I'm talking out of my ass a lot, and I could talk fast, and it could sound, not so genuine, not real, but I'm trying. I got a lot to learn with this podcast stuff, with this YouTube stuff. I got a lot to learn with microphones and editing, and I'm still contemplating whether I should buy some extra cameras, because I really want to start doing interviews with people. I've got people have reached out to me to ask for interviews, and there's so many people that I want to interview. So I think I am, but do I make that next step? This right now is it's just a hobby really for me. Like, do I want to be successful at it? Absolutely. So I think I should make the next step. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't know how to freaking edit that well. I don't really know camera angles or whatever, but I'm trying. So thanks for hanging in there and dealing with maybe some shitty sounding podcast or funny looking videos. I don't know. Or maybe it's just my face. But anyway, one of the articles that I recently read was about the migrants coming across the border in the South, in Texas. Now, before I say anything else, I don't want you to think that this is going to be a political episode or anything like that. I do not talk politics. I don't care how you feel about what's going on down there. I don't want you to care about how I feel what's going on about down there. I'm not going to express what that is. There's plenty of other shows, podcasts, whatever, that you can listen to that will talk politics, and Facebook pages and YouTube pages, whatever. This isn't one of them. I I don't give a fuck about your opinion. Don't give a fuck about mine, about what's going on down there. But the fact of the matter is there are hundreds of thousands of people crossing that border and that have crossed that border over the last couple of years. This article is about the fire department and paramedics down there in Eagle Pass, Texas, in Maverick County. It's a county of about 28,000 people, so it's a nice size. It's about the size. It's a little smaller than the town I live in, but that's still a nice size. I think they have 3 firehouses. But since these migrants have been coming across, their workload has like doubled, tripled, and now not only are they dealing with all the regular calls that they get in their county, but now they have to deal with all these migrants crossing the Rio Grande or crossing the desert and dying of dehydration, drowning in the Rio Grande. They're dealing with like 4, 5, 6, 7 dead bodies a day. Children, mothers, men, women, it doesn't matter. So however you feel about what's going on down there, these are still people crossing the border. They're still human beings that are dying every single day. And this department has to deal with that all the time. And it's affecting them mentally, it's affecting them physically, and they're having a real problem keeping people because that's not what they signed up for. They don't want to have, it's affecting them so bad. They're dealing with, so this chief of Eagle Pass Fire Chief, Manuel Mello, he said it's not anything close to what he's experienced before in the past. He said this is a whole different monster. The firemen are just, they're leaving the job, they're taking time off, they're having to deal with babies with their eyes open and mud in their mouth, dead, in their mother's arms. Like, do you have any idea how traumatizing that is for a first responder or for anybody? Any call that a first responder has to go on that has to deal with a child, sick, injured, dead, maimed, abused, whatever, affects those people, the first responders, unbelievably. I have a story about dealing with a child coming up in a little bit that I'm going to get to. It was the worst EMS run of my career. But anyway, the fire department down there they're having such a hard time dealing with these dead bodies and then going home and dealing with it at home. And it's killing them. It really is. This guy, David Black, he's a psychologist who works with the California law enforcement community for more than 20 years. He said, witnessing the death of a child is often the most traumatizing event a first responder can experience. Without a strong support system, both in and out of the workplace, the stress can eat them away. We outsource our worst case scenarios to first responders. If you have your own children, that can really impact how you look at your own family. And that's from a guy named David Black. He's a psychologist who works with the California law enforcement system. And that's the truth. When we have to deal with that stuff, if we don't have a strong support system, it's just going to eat away at you, eat away at you, eat away at you. And I'll tell you that story. It was brutal. So these guys are really having a hard time down there, but they just got a grant from the government to give them more money for mental health awareness type stuff, for more therapy that the job will pay for or the government will pay for, or psychiatrist or something that will help them deal with these issues. Like, most of these people have families. And if they go and deal and pick up a dead child out of the Rio Grande who drown, they're going to think about their families. They're going to think about their own children. So it's really, really a tough thing for these guys. But the reason why I brought up this article, I found this article at the same time that a buddy of mine, his name is Ben Wallach, and he's a former Navy SEAL, and he runs a security company called Vanilla Gorilla Security, and he gave me permission to mention him and his company. But he went down there to the Rio Grande. He's either escorting these guys or he's just working with them. And it's the Chasing Mountains podcast. And that's hosted by Dave Rumer and Jacob Colgan. And they got really, really good content. They interviewed Ben a while back. I'll link them both up in the description. So you guys got to check them out. They got really good content. They're good dudes. Ben's a good guy. I know him from a different job that we worked with, but he's check him out on Instagram or Facebook. He's got a lot of good content, a lot of videos up and stuff like that. But anyway, these guys are down there, the Chasing Mountains podcast, and they're doing a documentary about the border crossing and everybody who's coming across. And they're interviewing sheriffs, they're interviewing Border Patrol guys, probably some politicians. So that's going to be coming out soon. So check that out when it comes out, the Chasing Mountains podcast. All right? Now, I would like to get into a story about the worst EMS run that I've ever had. So, the New York City Fire Department does EMS runs. The engines do EMS runs, right? The city did 1.6 million 911 medical emergency calls last year alone. 1.6 million. So you have an EMS FDNY and you have your firefighters FDNY. The EMS and paramedics, there's only about 4,000 or 5,000 of those, but there's about 11,000 firemen. So when they merged, the fire department had to pick up a lot of the medical runs, the engines. See, there's an engine in a truck. The trucks really don't do medical runs, but on occasion they've done it when the city's really busy. But the engines do all the medical runs. The trucks, if they do a medical run, they come and fuck everything up. They don't know what they're doing. Just like if an engine had to go and do a stuck elevator or something like that. But no, it's all good. Everybody knows each other's job. I'm only breaking chops. Anyway, so 1.6 million medical emergencies last year in the city of New York. I don't know any other city that's that many people. I mean, there's 10 million people in New York City. So it's a huge workload. So now that these engines do medical runs, we do everything. We respond to sick people, dead people, injured people, adults, elderly, children, gunshots, knife wounds, COVID, fucking CPR, you name it, we go to it. Defibrillator, we had to deal with it all the fucking time. And it seemed like working in 59 Engine, which is one of the busiest companies in the city, usually top 5, but always top 10. It seemed like we went on every single one of those 1.6 million fucking EMS runs. I swear to God, it just seemed like we were running our balls off on EMS so much. Anyway, this story is about my worst EMS run of my career. And it was early on in my career. There was none worse than this one. If you listen to the past episodes, I'm in 59 Engine, but I'm still relatively new. I probably got about 2 years there or so. I'm thinking maybe a year and a half, 2 years. But I'm over my initial nonsense that I went through in my first year and a half, 2 years in 59 Engine. Half partly because of me, partly because of the guys needing to vet me and trust me and feel me out or whatever. But those are past episodes. You can listen to those. Anyway, things are getting better. Things are getting brighter for me. I'm over a lot of shit, but everything's always on the back burner. I'm getting a good process. I'm going to work. And when I say I'm going to work, I'm catching fires. I'm building bonds with the guys. I'm having fun. I'm making friends. I'm enjoying going to work. I just had a son. I got my wife. I'm still newlywed. We moved upstate. We got a nice house, a decent house, and things are starting to look good. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. But wouldn't you know it, whenever there's a light, that the fucking devil steps in, if you want to call it the devil or whatever it is, the universe, who knows, steps in and fucking puts a stop to that. At least for me, every time I felt like I was getting out of the hole, something would fucking come in the way and just knock me right back down. And this is one of those incidents. So I was on a 24, and when I say a 24, I mean 24-hour tour. And it was early in the day, probably, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock, maybe 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't even think we got lunch yet. And we get a call for either unresponsive infant or unresponsive baby or something like that. Now, whatever run we go on, we bust nuts. We go fast. We get our shit on quick, and we're out the door quick, and we get to that box really quick. And when I say box, I mean like an incident, a certain intersection. We get out quick. The fire department gets out really quick for fires, for everything. But when it comes to a child, especially an infant, a baby, we fucking go balls to the wall. Like, I'm telling you, we turn it up to, at a 1 out of 10, we turn it up to a fucking 100, man. Guys are just winging their shit on the rig. Nobody's getting dressed. We're just getting on the rig and going as fast as we can to this incident because it's a child. Because we know how important that is. We know that the family's probably freaking out and not knowing what to do because most people don't have experience when it comes to medical runs or somebody not breathing or somebody choking or whatever the case may be. We're the ones that are supposed to show up and know what we're doing and fix the problem, right? We're showing up on somebody's fucking worst day, man, and we got to do what we got to do and alleviate the situation and help them out as best we can. So, with this infant, we fucking haul ass. We go the wrong way out of quarters. Now, when you go out of my quarters on 133rd Street, it's an up block. It goes east to west. And we went left. It's a one-way block, so we went the wrong way coming out of quarters and hit Lenox Avenue, which is double lanes going both ways. It's a very wide street with a divider in the middle. We make a left. The box is on. The call comes in for 136th Street, which is pretty much right across the street from Harlem Hospital. So we make the left out of quarters the wrong way. We make the left onto Lenox Avenue in the right lanes. Go through 135 Street. The light was red. Fucking went right through it. And we make the left going up 136th Street, which is now a down block. It goes west to east. So now we're going the wrong way up 136. That was the fastest route to get there. And that chauffeur got us there fucking as fast as you possibly could and as safely as you possibly could. But we're now the wrong way. But we had to get there. It didn't matter. So as we get there, there's a cop car there. I believe they were facing the right direction. And then there's a family in the street. We roll up, slam on the brakes. I jump out of the car. I jump out of the rig, not the car, the engine. And there's a cop, and he hands me a lifeless 6-week-old infant. Just boom, here you go. And the feeling a lifeless baby in your hands, in your arms, is probably the worst feeling I've ever had on that job. It was awful. But I got a job to do. So I got to do it. Family's freaking out. Cop hands me the baby. We're the wrong way on the street. Now, for us to get to the hospital, we'd have to get on the rig and back out. We're not waiting for the ambulance because the ambulance isn't there yet. At this point, this is such an emergency. We got to get this baby to this hospital as quickly as possible. It would have taken us more time to back the engine out of the street, out of 136th Street, than it would to even fucking, who knows, run across the street. But one of the guys says, take the cop car. So there were two cops. One cop jumps in the driver's seat, and I jump in the passenger seat with this baby. And I'm trying CPR. I'm doing mouth to mouth, light puffs, and I'm doing light compressions with my two fingers. In the car, no seatbelt, and he's flying. So he's got to go down 136th Street. He's got to make a right on Lenox Avenue, and then he's got to make a left down 135 because the emergency room is on 5th Avenue, which is a very long block below Lenox Avenue. It's in the back rear of the hospital. So he flies down 135 Street. I'm still trying CPR. Makes a left on 5th Avenue and makes a left up into the back of Harlem Hospital, right to the emergency room where they were waiting for us. Hand off this lifeless infant to the nurses and the doctors, and they put him right on a gurney, and they continue CPR. They take the baby to the first available room, I guess. I followed them. My CPR didn't work. I did a few mouth-to-mouth resuscitations, and I did a few chest compressions with my fingers, but my CPR didn't work on this child. Their CPR didn't work on this child. As we went to that room, I stood behind them, and now I was off CPR. I wasn't doing anymore. But I was all by myself, and I was just watching them do this. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to fucking breathe at that moment. My guys weren't there yet. I didn't know what to think. I can't even fathom. I can't even explain to you how hard that was for me and what it did to me mentally afterwards and for such a long time. And to this day, I don't know how many people I told. I think more people know about that car accident that was the catalyst to a lot of my mental health issues than this incident itself. So they're doing CPR. My guys aren't there yet. I don't know where to walk. I don't know what to do. I got my hands on my hips and I start fucking crying. I just start bawling. I didn't know how to handle that. How else? I've never had a lifeless infant in my arms like that. And I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. So if there's anybody out there, any first responder that has had to deal with that, or anyone in the civilian world that has to deal with the death of a child, it's overwhelming. It's so traumatic. It's something that you just will never forget. So my guys show up and we watched for a couple minutes and the boss was like, covering boss, of course. Didn't even know the guy, but he was a good dude. And we get on the rig and we left and we get on the rig and nobody said anything. Like, what do you say? I wouldn't, and I can't blame them for not saying anything to me. I don't think that I would know what to say to a guy who just had a baby in his arms and tried CPR. And I'm sure there's fucking thousands of people out there, first responders that have dealt with that before. But this was me dealing with it right now. So nobody said anything. I didn't know what to do. We get back to quarters and now we got the whole fucking 24 left to go. I still got to go to work. I still got to do shit. I still got to do shit around the firehouse. I still got to get on the rig, but I didn't give a fuck about anything else in that 24. All I thought about was that baby. And then I thought about my son, who my son was very young. I just had him. He was only a couple months old. He wasn't 6 weeks old, but he was just a couple months old. He wasn't even walking yet. And that's what I thought about. And I couldn't get that picture out of my mind. I couldn't, the infant and my son, and that article that I just was talking about, that's what they think about. When you're pulling families out of drowning in the mud, you're thinking about your own family. And as I did CPR on this infant, I'm thinking about my own son. There's really no words for it. So hopefully none of you have ever had to deal with this. But so we get back to quarters and the boss has to call the medical office because I did mouth to mouth. I did skin to skin contact and we got to take an exposure report just in case the baby had something or whatever and I was exposed. But I didn't fucking care. Even the doctor was like, oh wow, that's messed up. And yeah, fucking you damn right it was messed up. But there was no counseling unit. There was no fucking anybody came and like, hey Kenny, let's talk for a little while. I probably wouldn't have talked to them anyway. I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. Let me talk to my guys. But we didn't want to talk. Nobody wanted to talk. At that moment, I didn't want to say anything. I think all the boss said was, that's not the greatest way to start a fucking 24. And, but guys don't know what to say to each other. I wouldn't know what to say at that time. I wouldn't know what to say to anybody. Maybe they never experienced that, so they don't know how I was feeling. But it sucked. It totally sucked. So I do my 24. I go home the next day, and I believe it was that day that I was home, or it was the day after, that I get a phone call. And it's a good buddy of mine from the firehouse who is since retired and lives in Nashville. He calls me up and he's like, hey, bro, what's going on? I was like, nothing, man. What's up, dude? He's like, I heard about yesterday. The cops were here and they just wanted to say, good job. You did the best you could or whatever. And I was like, oh, I appreciate that, but he's like, also CPS showed up or called and they wanted to talk to me. And CPS is Child Protective Services. Of course, they should fucking want to know what's going on with a dead infant. But they had said the reason why the baby died was because it drowned. Its lungs were full of water. I don't know. And they wanted to know what the conditions of the baby were when I had him in my arms. And from what I remember, that baby was completely dry. He was wearing a onesie with like the feet pajamas, 6 weeks, hair dry, everything was dry. I didn't feel any wetness or anything that I remember, but apparently the baby drowned. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. After that, they never looked for me again. I never reached out to them. So I don't know what happened with that incident, but the baby drowned. My CPR wasn't good enough. The doctors and nurses' CPR wasn't good enough. Extremely traumatic incident. The only person I talked to really was my buddy, and as on the phone, he's like, "How you doing, man? You all right?" And of course, back then, my typical self was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, bro. It's all good. It's all good." But it completely was not good. It completely wasn't fucking good. So I hang up the phone, and my wife was like, "What was that all about?" And then I told her, I said I had to do CPR on a 6-week-old baby, and she cried. I cried. She gave me a big hug, but it's not something that I talked about over the years, ever. It's not, because I don't want it to be like, oh, I never wanted to be like, poor me, look what I had to deal with, or look, everybody, I dealt with traumatic incidents. That's bullshit. That's not what that was about. That's not what this is about. And I'm sure there'll be people out there that'll be like, why are you talking about this shit, bro? Why don't you just keep that shit to yourself? You know what? Fuck you. Because I'm 50 years old now. I've had this long career. And now I've gotten a lot of things under control. And now maybe I can express this stuff and open up and put myself out there with the hopes of helping others, of other people who are going through this shit right now, or will go through it, or have gone through it and are keeping their mouths shut. Maybe I ain't got nothing to prove to anybody, but maybe what I say will help somebody stand up and go, you know what? I'm having a shitty time too. This is what happened to me. And maybe they'll get help. Maybe they'll realize that they need help as well. So that's why I'm doing this. I don't have anything to fucking prove to anybody. I'm 50 years old. It doesn't matter. That's why I'm saying this stuff. But that's that sad story. And it really is sad, because I still think about that. Without a doubt, the single worst EMS run, medical run on the job that I've had. And I've done CPR hundreds of times. I've defibrillated people. I've Narcaned people. We do it as a team. The whole engine. Dealt with shootings, stabbings, more sick kids, dead adults, just subway incidents. You name it, we've dealt with it. But this is the one that sticks out in my mind. And I know there are guys in my firehouse on the job that have had to deal with that and worse. These are just my stories. Every first responder has a story. 1, 2, 10, 100 stories. They all got them. They've all been to these incidents. They've all have these experiences. Everyone does. So that's why it's so important for that community, especially, to seek help if you need it, to talk to somebody. Talk to the brothers at the kitchen table if you're a fireman. Go to the fucking police precinct and go out with the guys and talk to them. Find a therapist. There needs to be more of a rapport, more of a dialogue with your employers about needing help, mental health. So if you're hurting, reach out. Fucking shit, man. DM me. Reach out to me. I'll see what we can do. You know, who knows? We just talk a bit. That's it. Maybe just a hello and how you doing. Maybe that'll help. Who knows? But that's my story for today. I don't want to say I hope you like it, because that's not a story to like. It's just a story to let you know of the most traumatic incident that I had and how it dealt with me, how I dealt with it mentally, and it affected me for so long. I got a video. I have a podcast. The episode is called I'm Sorry. And that episode is my wife and I were watching home movies of my son taking his first steps. And she said to me in the video, she says to me, as we're cheering like his first steps, she says to me, "See, you don't have such a bad life," or something like that. "See, your life isn't so bad." In the video, she says it to me. So that must have been, I believe that was right around or right after this incident with this baby. So I was fucking somewhere else, man. I wasn't present for my family. I didn't know how to deal with that. Now that I'm retired and I have my process, I can deal with this stuff. I'm able to comfortably talk about it and comfortably deal with it. Sometimes it bothers me, but I get things going, work out, eat right, and I'm back on track these days. And yes, it's easier because I have a little bit more time than I used to. I'm in a proper sleeping pattern, and I'd love to talk about one day how proper sleep can affect, or improper sleep can affect mental health. It's fucking awful. For 30 years, I've had bad sleeping patterns, and maybe that's why I've been so hard to get out of that hole for so long. But now that I'm sleeping every night in my own bed, and I'm on a proper routine, and I'm going to bed around the same time, and I'm getting up around the same time every day, It has worked unbelievably. But I understand. People have lives. People have families. They have children. They have to get their kids off to school. They got to go to work. I understand that stuff. We all have been there. All us regular people, all us normal people. Hopefully you guys are relating to me. Hopefully I'm relatable, because that's all I am, is just a normal guy. There is nothing special about me. Nothing. I just happen to be a guy that was in the Navy, a cop, and a fireman. There's a lot of us. There are. But I'm just a regular guy. I'm nothing special. I'm not some fucking, superhero or anything like that. Nothing. I'm just a regular guy who, when I went to work, had to be put in irregular situations and had to do it and had to deal with it. And this is how we dealt with it, by not saying anything for so long. But now I'm opening up, and I hope I can help somebody. Anyway, that's it. Friday night, St. Patrick's Day weekend. 2 years. I retired 2 years ago. In 2 days. It's unbelievable. I'm so happy. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. Don't forget to check out Vanilla Gorilla Security and the Navy SEAL Ben Wallach. And don't forget to check out the Chasing Mountains podcast. Great stuff. I'll put the links in the description on YouTube. I'll try and put it on the streaming services as well. But that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Friday night, even though this video is probably going to come out on Sunday. So remember, it must be true if you heard it at the kitchen table. And I'll see you at the big one.